How's it going, everybody? Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic horror movie review. It's getting closer to that big night, the big night of Halloween, and so expect more of these reviews. I'm going to try and do as many of these as I can up until the end of the month, but I have a lot of fun doing these because I love talking about these movies. They're the movies that I grew up watching over and over again, loving all throughout my movie watching life, and this one right here is one of my all-time favorite horror films. It's one of the films that scared me the most when I was growing up. First time I saw this movie, I must have been about 11 years old. And of course, I'm talking about the 1984 classic from director Wes Craven, A Nightmare on Elm Street. This movie scared the living shit out of me and anybody else that I showed this movie to back in the day. I watched this movie with friends, I watched it with cousins, and have a lot of great memories of this one. And I continue to revisit this one at least every Halloween season. So this movie stars Heather Langenkamp in the role of Nancy Thompson. You have John Saxon, the great John Saxon from Enter the Dragon, playing her father in this film. In the role of Tina, you have Amanda Weiss. Amanda Weiss is also somebody that pops up in one of my favorite comedies from the 80s, Better Off Dead, starring John Cusack. Great 80s comedy flick. You also have Nick Corey in this movie in the role of Rod Lane. And let's not forget the legendary Robert Englund in the role of Freddy Krueger, one of the greatest movie villains ever put on film. This movie takes place in a small town called Springwood, I believe in Ohio. And the plot of this movie centers around a group of teenagers that are having trouble surviving their dreams. They are encountering someone that is stalking them in their nightmares. And if they die in their dream, they die for real. And at the beginning of this film, we get a great introduction to the iconic glove, the glove that is made by the killer himself. The very opening of the movie, we see it being put together, and it's very creepy. This movie was scored by Charles Bernstein, and it really gets in your head after you hear this score after a little bit. It's kind of hard to shake, and it really is haunting, much like the movie itself. And one of my favorite all-time horror movie scores is right here in this movie. Some of the best jump scares are right here in this movie, particularly towards the end. There's some great ones. And all the actors here do a really good job for a 1980s slasher movie, which they tend to have pretty weak acting, but this is one of the better ones. Amazing practical effects, great set pieces. There are dream sequences in this movie that feel very surreal when Nancy comes out of her house and all of a sudden she's in an alley and walking through smoke and going through a door, and there's the police station. It's like almost like a real dream where you know something is familiar, but it just looks really different in terms of the geography. This movie captures that beautifully, in my opinion. This movie really is an excellent first time watch because when you first watch it, you meet somebody and you think that this person is going to be the star of the movie. And then, much like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, where he does a little switcheroo with that, Wes Craven does something similar with that in the first act of his film. And this is one of those movies that gives you an amazing final girl, one that you can root for and cheer on because she's smart and intelligent and at times can be scared but still find the courage to do what she has to do. Besides this being a great classic horror slasher, this movie also gave us one of the great actors of our generation. Johnny Depp makes his introduction to movies in this film. A very young Johnny Depp, and he's not bad for his first time out, actually. He could have been a lot worse considering it was his first movie. Not his best performance, but still you can tell there was a lot of promise there. Of course, enough can't be said about the iconic, the legendary Robert Englund, who put his heart and soul into this role, and you can tell that he enjoyed playing this part to the fullest because he relishes every moment that he gets to be sinister and dark and evil, and does it having this sense of humor about the whole thing. One of the things that always creeped me out about this movie was how inescapable Freddy Krueger always felt because eventually one has to fall asleep. It's kind of hard, especially the more you try and stay awake, you just want to fall asleep even more. And so the main character in this movie does her best to try and keep awake by taking certain stay awake pills and She keeps a coffee pot under her bed, and her boyfriend comes over, and she says, "Hey, can you watch me while I fall asleep?" and stuff like that. Another very interesting aspect about the character of Freddy Krueger is the way he likes to toy with his victims before the kill. He doesn't just come in and kill them and that's it, like Jason or a lot of people. He has fun messing with them, taunting them, stalking them in the dream because he can manipulate things in the dream because it's his world, he's in charge. Freddy has always very cleverly used his victims' interests against them. And not just that, things like pop culture, things like bad habits, that's something that they really get into later on with the sequels. And some of that is here in this first film. A lot of what you see later on with the sequels is all here in the original, but in the sequels, it's all sort of a little lighter. It gets a little more humorous, of course, towards the latter end of the series. But the first three films for me, they're a great trilogy. And even with the fourth one, I'm a big fan of the fourth one. I think that the first four Nightmare on Elm Street movies are great to watch, like back to back to back to back, because it makes for such a great horror movie marathon. And if I have extra time in my day, sometimes I'll even watch, all of them. I've actually done that. But I love watching these movies, especially the first one. To me, this is a four-star horror classic, and highly recommend this one for the Halloween season. Thank you very much for watching this classic horror movie review. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, hit that bell for notifications for more classic reviews coming your way, and look out for the next one. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.